Okay, in this video we're going to look at the diagnostic mode of Dash module number 2, which enables us to retrieve any stored fault codes. To do this mode, we need to make sure that the switch number 1 is in the on position, which is to the right. When that's in that position, that means when we power the unit up, we go into the operating mode select menu. From the operating mode select menu, we push button number 1 repeatedly until the display shows diagnostic mode, which is what we want, and then we push button number 2 to go into diagnostic mode. In diagnostic mode, we have a number of sub-options, the first being display faults. If we push button number 2, you'll see there's no faults actually stored in this unit at the moment, so it goes back to the menu display faults. Let's just see what other options there are before we go and actually insert some faults. We have a journey counter, an option to clear faults, and an option to go into normal running mode. And as you repeatedly push button number 1, it just cycles around those options. Let's have a look at the journey counter, what that's all about. If we push button number 2 when journey counter is displayed, this just shows journey counter to tell you what it is, and this J is a short for journey, and that shows that we've had 38 journeys. That means that this unit has been powered up and powered down in normal running mode 38 times. If we push button number 2 again and go into normal running mode, and then we'll power down and power up again, we should be able to see that that journey counter, if we go back into diagnostic mode and choose the journey counter, you see it's advanced now to 39, showing that that's counting one more count every time you go into normal running mode. Okay, what we need to do now is to actually insert some faults so that we can see how to retrieve them. So we're going to go into normal running mode by switching switch number 1 into the off position. So switch number 1 in the off position, power the unit up, and we'll go straight into normal running mode. There's no faults currently being detected by the unit, as indicated by the fact that the status LED here is green. That means no current faults exist. There's no F icon here, which means that no faults have been detected this journey, and the yellow LED is off, meaning no faults have existed in the past 64 journeys. What we're going to do now is insert a fault. Let's say we bring the fuel so low that it's a short circuit signal. So let's bring the fuel right down, and you can see this LED is flashing, indicating either you've got no fuel or there's a short circuit on the fuel signal input. And the status LED has gone red, meaning that there is currently a fault. This most significant character here is showing an F, meaning there's been a fault this journey, and the yellow LED is on, meaning there are fault codes stored in memory. If we increase the fuel again so that there's no fault currently existing, you see the status LED's gone green again. That means there's no faults anymore currently present, but the F is still on, meaning there has been a fault this journey, and the yellow LED is on, meaning there's been a fault in the past 64 journeys. If we power down again now and power up again in normal running mode, you'll see now we have green showing here, meaning no current faults. The F has gone off, meaning there's been no faults on this journey, but we still have the yellow LED on because there has been a fault during the past 64 journeys. So let's put another fault in now. Let's say we're going to fail the fuel pump fuse. We'll simulate that from the rig and switch the fuel pump fuse off. Again, we have red indicating there's currently a fault. There's been a fault this journey, and we'll correct that fault. Let's put another fault in. Let's say power to the ECU fails altogether, which we can simulate like that. You can see all these red-green indicators have gone to red as well. That's another indication, and off. So we'll power down the unit. Now what we've actually done now is we've had one journey where we've had a fuel sensor fault, and another journey where we've had an ECU power fault and a fuel pump fuse fault. So let's put the unit back into diagnostic mode, which we'll select from the operating mode select menu, switch number 1 to the right, which is on. We'll power the unit up, we'll get our operating mode select menu, we'll push button number 1 to go into diagnostic mode, button number 2 to select diagnostic mode. We want the display faults submenu, so we'll push button number 2. So what's this telling us? This is telling us that one journey ago, on fault word number 1, we had a hexadecimal value of 09, which corresponds to an ECU fuse fault. If we advance if we push button number 1, that cycles through all fault codes which are stored on fault word number 1 for journey 1. So one journey ago on fault word number 1 we had a hex value of 09, which corresponds to 2 faults, an ECU fuse fault and a fuel pump fuse fault. You'll remember they're the faults we put in. If we push button number 2, it goes to the next fault word. Now the next fault word that's stored was 2 journeys ago, and it was fault word 0. There are 2 fault words stored for each journey, which store different faults. And 2 journeys ago, on fault word number 0, we had a hex value of 08, which corresponds to a fuel pump short circuit fault, which was the fault we put in. If we push and repeatedly button number 1 now, it doesn't do anything. The reason for that is button number 1 cycles through all the faults which were stored on the displayed fault word, and because there was only one, 08 is actually a binary value of 000 1000, so that means there's only one bit stored. That's why you don't see anything else. If we push button number 2, we'll see that that's all the faults that are stored. Once there's no more faults to display, it goes back to this sub-menu, display faults. And if we keep pushing button number 2, it'll cycle round again. One journey ago we had an ECU fuse fault and a fuel pump fuse fault. 2 journeys ago we had a fuel short circuit fault, and that's all. They're all the faults that we had. Button number 1 can be used from diagnostic mode now to display the journey counter, which we've looked at, or to clear faults. Let's go ahead and clear the faults by pushing button number 2. After a few seconds, or a fraction of a second, it displays that it's cleared the faults and goes back to the menu. If we push button number 2 a final time, now that we've cleared the faults, it says there are no faults. So let's go into normal running mode. And you can see that back in normal running mode now, the yellow LED has cleared, the status LED is back on green, and the F has disappeared, meaning there's no faults currently existing with the unit and no faults stored in memory. And that, essentially, is the diagnostic mode of DM2.